Hey, what's up, guys? I'm finally back here to talk about NBA free agency. I'm really excited to talk about it, so let's get into it. Okay, so we got some notable free agency signings, and this is going to include not only signings but also contract extensions because I just want to talk about it all. I think they're all really cool, and I'm really excited. So let's start with Jokic. He literally signed the biggest contract in free agency, well, the biggest extension ever. I mean, it's a 200, I think 50 million, or maybe it could go up to 270. I don't know. It was super high. I think it might have been 270. I'm blanking a little bit because it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I mean, he deserves every bit of it. He's a two-time MVP. His team, he's the best player on his team. He's a arguably top four player in the league. I don't know who I would put him over, but he's really good. So he deserves a contract. There's not much to talk about there. And we could talk about Dame and his contract extension. I think it was 2 years, 122 or $21 million. And that's where it gets a little iffy because he's pretty much getting paid like a top five player in the league, which he's not. You could argue that he's not even top 10. I think he's around there. He might be 11 or 12. He might even be top 10, but the thing is there's people in the top 5 are not getting paid anywhere close to 60 million a year other than maybe Jokic. But actually, I don't think his contract extension has kicked in yet, so I don't think he's getting paid that. So the fact that he's getting paid that much is really iffy, and I just think it's a questionable move, especially considering the other signings that they had and the draft, and we'll just get into that later when we're talking more about team stuff. I think it's a great deal for Dame, but I don't know why the team would be offering that. And next we can talk about Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, I mean, he's a baller. We all know this. He's one of the best dunkers in the NBA. He's really evolved into a great shooter. Defense is questionable, but I don't think anyone can deny that that Bulls team was super fun to watch. Him and DeMar was a really good duo. I mean, it was surprising going into last season. No one expected that. A lot of people were thinking that DeMar was washed. I never really had that opinion. I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was. Obviously, he was in MVP conversations. But back to Zach LaVine, I think he deserves the contract. I'm glad the Bulls were able to sign him to that contract. I wasn't sure. I thought he was gonna stay, but there wasn't a whole lot of certainty with it. So I'm just glad that it ended up going through and he's staying with the Bulls instead of going to other teams like the Lakers. I mean, they would have had to trade some pieces, but I'm just glad that he was able to go to that team. And then this is probably the most questionable signing we're about to talk about next. And that is Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal. Well, I think it was a 5 year, $250 million deal around there, which is already questionable enough. That's getting paid like a top 20 player in the league, which you could argue that he's not. That's getting paid like a top 5 player in the league, but you could argue that he's not even top 20 is the big thing. And I think the thing that's even crazier about it is the fact that it also has a no trade clause. Um, I don't love it. I don't love it at all. I don't see why the Wizards would even do that whatsoever. It genuinely doesn't make any sense to me. I think, obviously, we know why Bradley Beal would do it. I mean, you're going to take the bag. If I would take $250 million over one championship ring any day. So we're not blaming Bradley Beal because he's not the one that made them offer him that contract, but they did it, so it's questionable. Don't know why they would do it. It's just a team that's trying to stay in mediocrity. Maybe they didn't think that they could. Maybe they thought keeping him and staying would be better than letting him walk. But you could have done a sign and trade. You could have done all these things. I just don't know why they did it. That is a very, very questionable move. I think it's probably the worst signing in free agency this year. Not because he's even a bad player, but when you get paid that much money, you're going to become overrated. You're going to become overpaid. And he could make upwards of $30 million a year, but the fact that he's getting paid over 50 is what's crazy about it. And then this actually just happened 2 days ago. I want to talk about DeAndre Ayton. So what happened was the Pacers offered him, I think it was a 4 year, $133 million deal, and then the Suns ended up matching it like a couple hours later, which wasn't a big surprise. But I think this was a big fumble by the Suns because now that they offered him that contract, he can't get traded till mid January, which is a big problem because I don't even think they want him on the team. So it was really just a fumble because you could have offered him a contract and then done a sign and trade, but he can't get traded until January 15th because of the contract. At least with his consent. If he consents to being traded, they can trade him. But they really they could have even traded him for Miles Turner. I know that you're not getting the same value back that DeAndre Ayton is worth. But if you don't want him on the team, I don't know why you're not trying to do a sign and trade when you know other people are waiting to sign him. The Pacers, it was a nice try by the Pacers. I'm glad that they were able to do it because they just kind of took the risk and it didn't happen. It was a low risk, actually pretty much no risk, high reward scenario. But I'm honestly glad that they didn't sign him just yet because I wanted to see Miles Turner back on that team this next season. I want him because he could even get his value up. Then when they want to trade him for DeAndre Ayton, they might not need to trade as much. But that's also the risk is he might not be as good. So we'll just have to see next season. And the next signing I want to talk about is the John Wall to the Clippers signing. That was one of my favorite free agency signings during this entire time. They also ended up getting Batum back, which I love Batum, so I'm glad he's on that team. But I'm really excited for John Wall because John Wall, I mean, he's not played a whole lot in these last couple seasons, but we all know he's a baller. But you know what? The Clippers have been lacking recently? Playmaking. And you know what John Wall's gonna offer? Playmaking. So it's gonna be really fun to see him in the Clippers uniform. I mean, Kawhi's gonna be back healthy, so Kawhi, you got Paul George, even you could call it a big three. It's not really a big three because John Wall's fallen off a lot. But that big two surrounded with some really good role players is going to be a fun team to watch. I'm really excited. And also that he got bought out and he signed a two $12 million deal. I'm just glad that he was able to get on another team, be able to play some more. And this is another signing I'm going to talk about, which is by the Trailblazers, and it was extending Simons. I like extending Simons if you're committing to a rebuild. Maybe even I like extending Simons if you're not committing to a rebuild, but you need to end up trading him. So this is just contingent on whether or not they're going to end up trading him. Because if they want to keep him, yeah, but they need to. If they're trying to build a championship team around Dame, you're probably going to have to trade Simons. So if you're extending him and not ending up trading him, I don't love the move. I don't hate the move. It just depends on what they're going to end up doing. And then another signing we talk about now is Mitchell Robinson and the Knicks. I thought that they were not going to sign him at all. I did not think it was going to happen at all. Obviously Brunson signing with the Knicks was a big thing as well. I completely glossed over that. While I think it was an overpay, I'm really glad that they signed him and he's on the team now because they just need that. They need that point guard. They need the guy that can handle the ball, that can score. They haven't had that in a long time. I'm glad that they got it. But I mean, they might be training for Donovan Mitchell soon, so we're just gonna have to see. I don't love the overpay for Brunson, but maybe they can see something. Maybe he's gonna be better. But the thing is, if they end up trading for Donovan Mitchell, that's two guards in the backcourt. That's small and not amazing defensively, and they kind of both like having the ball in their hands. So that's just my thing. I feel like you're kind of just running back the same thing in Utah with a way worse defense. So it's just questionable. Obviously, the Knicks are the Knicks, so they're gonna try to bring in a big name, and of course, people want to go and play for them. Any of the big names wants to play for them. So it'll be an interesting thing. We'll see what happens. And we can talk about Portis signing that 4-year deal with the Bucks. I'm glad that they were able to keep him. He was a vital piece, even in the last year's playoffs. Even though they lost in the second round, he was a vital piece in their championship run. I'm just glad that they were able to sign him, and they were also able to sign Joe Ingles. And I'm glad he finally got a contract, and I'm also glad that they were able to sign him because I know he's a great shooter. I mean, he was in contention for sixth man of the year 2 years ago. I think it was. It wasn't last season, but it was the season before. So I know Joe Ingles was good, and I know that Bobby Portis is an amazing player. I just think that Bucks team is going to be scary next year. I'm really excited. I mean, Giannis is only going to continue to get better. He's just now entering his prime, and it's just going to be fun. I like that team. And then another signing we can talk about is PJ Tucker signing with the 76ers. I think it was on a 3-year deal. I'm not sure how much it was, but he did end up signing with the 76ers. And I love the signing For the Sixers, it's a big loss for the Heat because their big men core is, and even their small. I mean, he was 6'4", 6'5", so he's not a huge big man, but he plays bigger than he actually is. So it's just kind of running dry. I mean, they got Bam, and then it falls off pretty hard after Bam to Omar Yurtsven, and then you also got Dwayne Dedman, which those are good NBA, those are decent NBA players, but they fall off really hard. So big loss for the Heat, big pickup for the 76ers, and we can talk a little bit more with the 76ers because I'm actually going to be talking about Harden a little bit, but that's in a different part. So we're going to move on to Malik Monk signing with the Kings, and I'm actually excited. A lot of people did not like the signing. They also ended up trading for Kevin Herter. I like that too. I think the Kings are going to be a fun team to watch. I mean, Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox played at college together in Kentucky, so I think that chemistry is already there. I think it's a good signing. I think it's going to be a fun signing. Uh, I'm excited for that team. Not much to say other than that. And then there's only two more signings that I really want to talk about. Next is Kevon Looney to the Warriors. That was pretty much a vital thing to keep because he's in there. He's getting boards. He's an above average passer. He can score on the inside, although it's not really his job to score. I think he's mainly there for getting those boards. And I think that was a great signing. I'm glad the Warriors were able to keep him, even though, I mean, I think almost everyone's done with the Warriors being good. But I'm just glad that they were able to keep him because he's a solid player. And then this is one of my top five, probably free agency signings. I don't know top five, but I've really liked it. And it was Ricky Rubio to the Cavaliers. Okay. If anyone was watching the Cavaliers last season, you would know that they were amazing while Ricky Rubio was playing for him. And then he went down with that injury. I think it was an ACL tear. And they just were not the same. They ended up trading him for Karis LeVert, which he was a decent player, but I mean, it was nowhere near the value that Ricky Rubio was producing for them. So it's fun to see him back on that team again on a new deal. And that is going to be one of my sleeper teams to watch, and I can talk about them a little bit. But I really like the signing, and I'm really excited for the Cavaliers. And next, we can go into some notable free agents that are still a free agent. And of course, one of them is pictured right here. That would be Harden. So far, he has not been renegotiated to a new deal. I know that he declined his player option, so we'll just have to see. I don't know. There's not really many people to sign. I think Melo's a free agent too. He's also, so with that, I mean, if he's trying to renegotiate a new deal to bring in more players, the thing is the free agency class is kind of dry now. So there's not a whole lot of players they can really sign that would make them, like, that would propel them into contention. So, I mean, they're already contenders, but just to propel them more into contention. So, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't know if he's going to sign, you know, a $20 million deal, a $30 million deal. I don't know how much he can be offered. So, we're just going to see with that. But I'm really surprised he's not been signed to a contract yet, considering, Bradley Beal already signed his extension. That's who they were wanting on the team. So, yeah, and then another notable free agent I want to talk about is Sexton. Apparently, he has zero value on the market right now, which is really surprising because he was averaging, I think it was 24 or 26 points 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago. I think it was 2 seasons ago. And I remember watching him. He's a really good player. Obviously, I mean, if you're trying to value Darius Garland against Sexton, it's obviously Darius Garland is a way more valuable player than Sexton. But I think the Cavaliers are going to end up re-signing him. Um, I don't know. He just has no value, so I don't know what the contracts are looking like for him right now. I'm really surprised he has no value because I know he's a good player. I mean, I remember him playing against the Nets. Maybe it was last season. It might have been the season before. Kind of blanking, but yeah, I think he ended up dropping over 40 points on him, and he was balling out. So I just hope he can get a contract. I really would like to see him on a team where he's like a secondary ball handler, but not necessarily on the Cavaliers. I think that he would be great on the Cavaliers, but I think he'd be a perfect sixth man for him. But if he was able to go to a team like, I don't know, like the Dallas Mavericks, him and Luka I think would be a fun duo to watch. But he could be a secondary ball handler when Luka is not needing the ball. He could learn to play a little bit of off ball. That'll be a fun team if he's able to sign with them. I don't even know if that's even a thing that's going on right now. But it'd be fun to see him on that team. And I'll just backpedal back to Melo. I don't know what team he's going to sign with at all. Genuinely have no clue. So We'll just see. He might re-sign with the Lakers. I don't know. There's a couple teams he could go to. I could see him re-signing with the Lakers. So we're just gonna have to see. I know the Lakers did a couple smaller free agency signings, like Thomas Bryant and Lonnie Walker. So I'm excited. So we're just gonna go into some teams that I am excited for in 2022 and 2023. And the first team I want to talk about is the Clippers. I'm super excited for that. I love John Wall. I love the idea of John Wall. I don't know if it's gonna, you know, equal and become a good team in real life, but on pen and paper, it looks like a fun team. Looks like it's gonna be definitely a contender. I mean, they were a contender without him, so I think that they're even more a contender. They're much more of a contender now. And another team, we could talk about. I'll bring my little mouse right here. We got got not the Los Angeles Lakers, the Warriors. Uh, I mean, if you're running back the exact same team that just won a championship team last year, I mean, other teams got better, but you were able to re-sign Kevon Looney. Obviously, your younger guys are going to be progressing and getting better. I don't think you can not. I don't think you can dislike the Warriors squad next year. And you know, with all the rumors floating around about Kevin Durant getting traded, I know that you can't have two players that were traded that also had a rookie max extension. So if they end up trading for Kevin Durant, I know that Andrew Wiggins can't go to the Nets, so they'd have to trade one of them, or it'd have to be a 3-team trade. So I like the Warriors heading into next season. We'll just have to see, how they play. We'll see if Steph Curry, regresses at all. I don't think he will, but I think that the older players like Draymond are gonna end up regressing. I think Clay's probably gonna end up regressing. So we'll just have to see. And another team I'm really excited for is the Bucks. Not only did they re-sign everyone they had last year, they're gonna be healthy next year, hopefully. And then they also have some more shooters. I wish they had a better guard off the bench. I think their two guards like that play minutes are George Hill and Javon Carter, and I love Javon Carter. George Hill is he's just old, and I don't like him as a. I like him. He's obviously I don't know him as a person, but his play wise is iffy. So we'll just have to see. I hope he can, I hope that they can sign. I don't even know any guards. They could maybe sign Sexton. I don't know their cap situation. I doubt he would even want to sign with them. But if they could have him as a guard off the bench, that'd be a fun team. And the next team that I'm really excited for is the Cavaliers. That Cavaliers squad is looking nice. Uh, they just got O'Shea Ajbaji. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And obviously they got these free agency signings like Ricky Rubio and all that. And we'll just have to see if they end up re-signing Sexton because I don't see him fitting into the starting lineup. I see him being a good player off the bench. I hope that team's going to be fun. I can see that team being a top 5 seed easily as long as they stay healthy. And some other teams a little less notable. I like the Nuggets. I know they ended up trading Will Barton, which was a pretty good player for them, but they ended up trading Will Barton for KCP. It was Will Barton and Monte Morris, which Monte Morris was a bit of a loss, but now that Jamal Murray's back, it's going to be fine. And they got KCP for him, and then they ended up extending KCP. So I'm excited for the team. Hopefully everyone's healthy, and then I think we can actually end up seeing a Jokic that has really good quality players around him, and that could make his stats go down. That could make his stats go up. We'll just have to see. I really doubt he's gonna get another MVP this season just because of fatigue, but we're just gonna have to see. And then we got the Kings. I'm excited for the Kings. The Kings are gonna be fun. People are hating on the Kings. I think that that's gonna be a fun team. Are they gonna make the playoffs? Probably not. Could they make the play-in? Maybe. I hope they do. I'm excited for them. Um, and then the last team is the Bulls. I'm kind of not sure where to put the Bulls on here. I like them that they were able to re-sign Zach LaVine. That was pretty much it. I know that they think they signed Andre Drummond, which was a good signing for them. Um, I'm glad. It's just one of those teams that are kind of teetering on. I'm neutral about, and they're good. So, and if I'm missing any teams, I apologize. I just can't get all of them, and I might just be forgetting some teams. And then we can move on to, teams that I'm not so excited for in 2022 and 2023. And first off is the Wizards. I think that they had probably a F for agency signing. I did not like it. I didn't like their free agency at all. their trades for Monte Morris was it gives them a good ball handler, but like, why is the real question in getting that trades for Will Barton? I'm not really talking about their trades, but mainly just I think the thing that gives them a terrible grade for me is the Bradley Beal and giving him a no trade clause. It's just a team that's just trying to be mediocre, and you can watch teams like the Pacers that are finally blowing it up. It's way more interesting to watch a team that's rebuilding than it is to watch a team that's mediocre. So it's mainly just because you're able to watch them progress and it's more interesting. But yeah. And then another team that I'm not as excited about are the Blazers, mostly because I'm not sure. I'm confused because it seems like they're trying to hold on to a bunch of young guys because that's where their most of their value comes from. But they're also trying to be a contender with Dame. So I think the thing I'm just not loving about them next year is that they I'm not sure what their real goal is. I know with the Warriors they have the same thing. They have young guys that they can progress, but they also have a bunch of players that make them a contender. But the Blazers don't have a lot of players that make them a contender. So I don't love their situation. We're just going to see what they're gonna do. Another team that I'm not as excited for are the Knicks, just because they overpaid for two of the players that they ended up signing. I know there might have been smaller signings, but the two main players, which were Brunson and Robinson, I think they overpaid for them. They didn't necessarily get better. They kind of just stayed mediocre. And if they do end up trading for Donovan Mitchell, it's going to gut their core. I don't know. Not loving it for next season. And the next team that we can talk about are the Suns. I already pretty much went over it earlier. It's just the fact that I honestly think they should have just offered him a contract and traded him instead of letting him give an offer to where they had to match it and he can't get traded anymore. They've really fumbled like probably a good half of their season right there. If he's going to be amazing next season, they don't need to trade him. Awesome. But the thing is, most people saw them doing one thing and then they completely did not do it. So I think that's the biggest thing with them. So I don't love them heading in next year. They're obviously still going to be, top 4 seed, top 3 seed. They're a good team. It's just, we just don't know their situation. We don't know how the team chemistry is going to be. So, and then the final team, the last team I want to talk about is the Lakers. I didn't really talk about Russell Westbrook accepting his player option because, I mean, it wasn't really a question. If he didn't accept it, he would have been out $47 million and maybe would have gotten a $10 million deal. Maybe a $10 million. So that's the tough thing. So obviously you can't blame him for accepting the player option, but it just sucks because that team's really in the hole right now and they're trying to trade for Kyrie, but I don't know if that's going to happen because they really don't have the assets for it. So it's just tough. The Lonnie Walker signing, I liked it. The Thomas Bryant signing, I don't know if he fits well with AD, but we'll have to see. The free agency signings were just kind of meh. They signed, I think it was Tony Brown Jr. or it was Brown. What's it? I think it's Tony Brown. It's wrong. It's Troy Brown Jr. Gosh, they signed him. They signed Damian Jones. The team is probably still not going to be the greatest. You have to put them into a contender because they have LeBron on the team. But I don't know. Actually, I don't know if you necessarily have to. You want to is the big thing. So I'm not excited for that team next year. I hope that they can step it up. If they do end up trading for Kyrie, I don't know what's going to happen with Russell Westbrook. He has to get traded for him, but I just don't know if he's going to get bought out or anything like that. I know that he just parted ways with his agent. So we're just going to have to see. And that's pretty much it. That's all I was wanting to talk about for today's video. I really wanted to talk about free agency just because it's probably my favorite part of the offseason. I don't know. I really like the draft. And of course, Summer League's going on right now, so we're seeing all those draft pieces. But it was an interesting free agency. It was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a really boring one. But that's pretty much all I want to talk about today, guys. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.